Okay, guys, we are back for another episode of It's a Transform podcast. I have a very handsome guy with me today. He's actually probably smarter than most people we've had on this show as it pertains to politics and what's happening in the country as it pertains to LGBTQIA rights. I'm Raquel. My handsome co-host is not here tonight, so it's just me and our guest, Sybastian. But we're going to hold it down for him and do what we do, and we'll make sure we shout him out throughout the show. But Malik is not here tonight, but I promise I'll get us through tonight and we'll have a really good interview. Before we get started, Sybastian, we always tell our audience that we lead with love, and this is a safe place. And there's no conversation that's off limits. And if this conversation deviates in, a totally different direction, that's okay. The most important thing is we have very honest conversations and conversations that push us forward as a community, and also conversations that help us understand where to go for help and to let people know they're not by themselves, because oftentimes when we're going through a very difficult time, we feel like we're by ourselves. So this is the safe place. We lead with love, and we leave all conversations wide open, so you can say what you want to say. There are no rules.
Absolutely. I love it. I love the no rules. Let's do it.
Yeah. But before we get into the conversation, Sybastian, I want you to introduce yourself. Tell people who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So as you said, I am Sybastian. I am originally from Mississippi, so I'm a country boy, and I am, my position or my title is Organizing Director at the National Center for Trans Equality. And that's a bunch of words for an organization that does transgender policy work at the federal level, at the national level. So you're talking about people who are, including myself, who are in positions to talk to the White House, to talk to legislators, to talk to government, to talk to all of the people who are making these decisions, not just for trans people. Let's be clear. For all of us, queer or not, gay or not, straight, all of us, people that are making those decisions for our lives in those rooms that we're not in, I have the opportunity and the privilege to be working at a place that I can be in those rooms and speak for a lot of, folks, marginalized folks who don't get an opportunity to have a seat at those tables. So that's a lot of words, too, to say that I do a lot of legislative activities and education around policy, what it means to vote, what bills are out there, how they affect our community. So that's pretty much what I do in a nutshell.
And for those of you that may have missed it, I want to clarify that Sybastian is a trans man. I think you kind of said it, but sometimes we get so caught up in, the context of what we're saying that someone may have missed it. So not only is Sybastian fighting for rights, but he's fighting for his own rights as well. While he's fighting for you, he's fighting for himself, his family. And I think that's important to know, that he is also transgender. One of the things that I find interesting is it's election year. So everything you just said is more important this year than it would be next year and the year after, because we have to wait another 4 years to really get some of these things on the ballot to, talk about, hey, you shouldn't be making this decision for us because you have no clue what it's like. And like you said, it's not just about the LGBTQIA community, but also just being a person of color.
Yes.
Being a woman, being any sort of minority in this country, having somebody to represent us is very important. What do you see right now as the most important thing on the agenda for us in our community, in the LGBTQIA community?
I think for us right now, I think externally, many things, it's multi-layers, right? So I want to say that this is not going to be an exhaustive answer, because I think we could probably talk all night about the different issues and the nuances and all those things. But I think right now for us, there's a broad need to understand, like, our diversity within the community. Like, we're not all the same. We don't all, have the same family structure. We don't all believe the same things. I think ultimately, yes, all marginalized people, or all folks, who are minorities, as you mentioned, deserve equal access and equal rights. But what we don't talk about is the equity in that. And when I say equity, just so folks can understand what that means that yes, on a broad scale, if you pull back, broad picture, all of us deserve the same rights, access to the equal rights and all those things. But equity says that Raquel, as a Black cisgender woman, cisgender means I identify as what I was born as, right? For the sake of conversation here. As a cisgender Black woman, what I need to sustain life and to be happy and healthy and whole is different from what Sybastian needs as a Black trans man to be happy and healthy and whole. That's what equity says. We both deserve freedom, but the supports that we need can look different, but we both deserve those supports. So I think it's just that vast understanding of our diversity, the differences in equality and equity and what it means, and really going for more equity, having our community going for more equity, more stake, more saying, hey, these are the things that I need. I'm talking to my legislators, right? Mm-hmm. These are the things that I need to be happy, healthy, and whole. And it's not the same thing as somebody else that's marginalized needs, but we both deserve those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we know this firsthand just from being people of color, some of the disparities that we face in our communities. And then when you add being in the LGBTQIA community, that's another layer, right? You mentioned layers earlier, and it's like there's so many layers to what's going on in our country right now. We've had a couple of shows where we've talked in detail about just when a trans person goes to prison, what does that look like? Where are you putting them? Are they safe? So it's that's not necessarily a political thing, but it's very political. It's political because prisons make billions of dollars, and prisons are owned by people like you and me. Mm-hmm. You and I can be investors into a prison that is ran by the state or ran by the federal government. So while it's not necessarily politics on a ballot, it is still very, very political what's happening in the system. I think, and I always ask this question, especially around election time. I'm a commissioner here in the state of South Carolina for building and zoning, and I sit on the foster care review board for the state of South Carolina for foster children. I'm ran for office here in my county. And one of the most difficult things that I find is everybody complains, but nobody shows up and gets on the front line with you to fight for their right. They want you to fight for them, but they don't fight. How challenging is it for you to get people to come out and do their part as it pertains to helping pass some of these laws and getting things on the ballot and getting people out to vote and so on and so forth?
Absolutely a challenge. I think that's the challenge all of us are facing that do this type of work, be it on the organizing side where we're motivating people to come and vote, and also on our elected official side, right? What do you need to say to people to motivate them to come out and vote for you, right? So I think part of it is making it, we talked about education earlier, right? Like making it palatable, right? Like breaking down the education, breaking down what it means to vote. Because what you're going to hear from our folks, especially our folks of color, is my vote don't count. My vote don't mean anything. However, if if you show them the importance of still using your voice, this is how you still fight back for the system, right? This is how you still stand up and make a choice, because whether you know it or not voting is still a choice. Not voting is you still made a choice, and you still are not being counted. So if you feel that way, why not take a chance? Take a chance and go out there and say, hey, I took a chance. I'm going to go out and use my voice. I'm going to go out and make sure the candidate that I'm voting for is someone who is speaking to the things that I need, right? And I think on the opposite side of the aisle is having our elected officials go directly to the people. I'm not saying, again, this is me throwing out things, not saying you haven't done these things, but it's like door knocking and canvassing and talking to the people is so extremely important, because you find out what we need, right?
Absolutely.
Making an assumption that, hey, this is what I think my constituents need because I know this is my past, or I know that this is what I see, but go right to the people. And it's so important to have those legislators, those elected officials be the one talking to you and asking you those questions and listening for the feedback. So a lot of it is that motivation piece is showing people what the end product could look like. If you go and use your voice, this is what we could have, and this is what we could do. And I think we put a lot of weight and a lot of things on the presidential, like a lot of eggs in the basket on the presidential election. Wow.
But it's crazy because the local vote, the vote in your county is the vote that affects your life. So it doesn't matter. It matters, but whoever's the president, great.
Yeah.
But who you vote for in your county makes all the decisions on the taxes you pay, what healthcare looks like. It is so important. If you don't go vote for the president, and this is the presidential year to vote, and I know people get caught up in the electoral vote, so the people can go vote. Okay, yeah, you're right. And it's frustrating how that happens. But when you have people in your county running for school board, when you have people running for city council, those are the people that control your life. So, bar none, you must get out and vote for the locals in your county, in your community, because those people determine how we live.
Yep. And nobody taught us that though, Raquel. No, black people. I don't even mean POC. I mean black people. Nobody taught us that. Nobody taught
my grandmother
that. My
grandmother walked to the poll. It was at a church on the corner. It was 5-minute, 10-minute walk. And she would take me with her. She voted for everything that pertained to our little community, even from like home association. Who could come in, everything. So I don't have that story.
Yes.
I don't have that story. My grandmother was 80 when she passed, and she passed in 2005. She will be 100 if she's still alive. And I remember vividly walking to the poll and getting to stretch off or punch for her, and how important that was for me. It's like, dang, I can't wait until I can do this myself. And when I ran for office, I took my children and I allowed them to push the button.
Right.
I allowed them to vote for mine, right? Because you get to vote for yourself when you run for office. So I don't necessarily have that story, but my God, 99.999% of my friends have that story.
You have that story. Yep. Absolutely. It's the majority of our story. Like, I think a lot of times too, we've been force fed, go vote because of the history of black people and not having access to voting and all the things and paying homage. And that's important. Thank you. Right. But on the other side, am I doing more good or damage? Because I'm going frivolously, right? I'm not doing me and my wife sit down at the table when we go get ready to vote and start Googling these, and we don't already know who these representatives are because they've done their job and knocked on my door and left stuff in my mailbox. And it too, like, these people look at those things as a nuance. And I'll be honest with you and very frank that before I started working in it, I voted, don't get me wrong, but I didn't look at it in the same lens as I look at it now, like being on the opposite side of it, right? And like, a lot of things we take for granted, the text messages that we get, the leaflets in the mail and all those things.
The robocalls, bro.
Yes. Oh, but that's a part of the tactic. Like, even if I go vote to get you to stop calling me, I'm going to go vote for you so you can stop calling me. Whatever it is, I think we take those things for granted. And as organizers who do that work, it's still such an important piece of voter engagement and all those things because so many of us didn't have that educational piece. Again, back to my point, that we were force-fed to go vote for this reason, but not to educate ourselves on what your vote means and who you're voting for. Again, me and my partner sit down before we go vote, and we Google everybody on the ballot. We Google the ballot, pull our ballot up, see who's on the ballot, look at the candidates, look at their pages, look at their campaigns, and we go to the poll informed.
So for those of you that don't know, you can literally go online and pull up a ballot for your whatever precinct that you have to vote. You can pull up a ballot so that you can actually research everyone that's running in your district, in your county, however it is in the state of Georgia. A lot of people don't know that, and that's not just people of color. A lot of people don't know that you can pull up the ballot and start preparing and studying so that when you go in there, you know exactly who you're voting for. You're not just guessing. Because some folks I know, and I won't call any names, but they just go all Democrat.
They go all Democrat. all the way down the line. They pick that one they know, and then everybody, or they don't. They just pick the one that they know, and they don't fill out the other categories at all, the other places at all.
That happens quite a bit. Absolutely. Yes,
absolutely. So you're absolutely right. Yep.
I think like going into this election years, January, I think in most states, whoever's going to run for like some of the local offices, I think they have until March maybe or so to put their name on the ballot, because we vote for primary, I think, in June, and then we turn around and the election is in November. What do you want people, like if you could leave the people one thing, if you could say, hey, this is what we need in the state of Georgia as we prepare to vote, what would you want to tell them? What would you want them to focus on?
So I think that, again, I think we've heard that before, that Atlanta in itself, Georgia in itself, actually, I would go to say, this is our statement here, is that we are this melting pot, this diverse place of people. And I always go back into diverse because I think sometimes we let our differences cloud our commonality, right? So I want us to all realize that we're different in many ways, but we also come in probably a whole lot more ways than not. And I'm not even talking about LGBTQ people, I'm talking about human beings, just exist, right? So in that, think about what you need. What do you need? What are you lacking as a person right now, right? Like in your life, is it employment? Is it, food? Is it stable housing? Or think about what you need. When you think about what you need, you want to go to the polls with the candidates in mind that are talking the talk that you need to hear, that are producing, that have the plan to produce the solution that you need in your life, right? We don't want to go for the glitz and glamour, right? We want to go for someone who is speaking of substance, someone who knows what their community and their district looks like. So again, go in with a needs mind when you go to the poll, even before you go to the poll, because we already let the people know that you can research and pull up your ballot before you go. So this is the first thing I want you to do is research and pull up your ballot before you go, and go down that ballot and Google. Google is an amazing tool. Use it, and it's free. Google each and every one of those people on your ballot and see who's talking or doing the things that fit what you need. Needs first. That's it. Think about what you need when you go to the.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we wrap up, I want you to help folk how they can find you on social media if they have questions later on in reference to voting or just community, period, because you do so much work in our community. How can they find you?
Thank you, Raquel. So absolutely, I do a lot of stuff. I know tonight we talked a lot about policy and politics and all those things, but I'm deeply rooted in community. I have many resources. I, do a lot of things. So you can find me on Facebook at Sybastian Smith, Sybastian. Again, that's Sybastian. Smith is my last name on Facebook. And then I am Mr._handsome gent on Instagram. And you can find me on either one of those. Hit me up. Any questions? I'm usually very open, So, but yes. Hit me up if you need me.
Okay, guys. So you heard them. If you need them, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Not just about politics, but anything in community, because it's so active. We normally do a spotlight, and we just give someone a spotlight who's doing the work. So tonight our spotlight is going to go to Sybastian, because I actively see him doing the work. I don't hear about it. Like, I see him on the ground. Whenever I call him in reference to anything community, he responds back immediately. So our spotlight tonight goes to Sybastian. Thank you so much for all that you do in our community. We need people like you. We need more people, because frankly, you can't do it by yourself, and it takes an army to really move anything, and nothing happens until there's dialogue. And I say that all the time. Until there's a conversation had, there's no way we can start to change anything. So make sure you reach out. Malik normally talks to you guys about sponsorship. We're always looking for sponsors to sponsor the show. As we continue to build and have these type of conversations, we ask that you guys reach out to us. My social media is Raquel. My Instagram is RaquelRT3, RaquelRT3. My Facebook, I don't check it that often. Actually, somebody runs it for me. But if you go to Facebook, I am Raquel M.R. Thomas, Raquel M.R. Thomas. We thank you so much for another night of just good conversation. Tonight is more about educating from a political standpoint. Guys, we got to vote. Every vote matters. But until next time on It's a Trans World podcast, know that we love you and we're here to educate and we're here to have conversations about what's going on in the LGBTQIA community and to provide a safe space for people to express who they are. But most important, Malik and I, we talk all the time about how important education is. We want to educate individuals on what's going on in this community. So until next time, guys, we thank you for hanging out with us, and we will see you next week with another show. Talk to you later. I'm your girl, Raquel, and so happy to be here with you. Sybastian, tell the people about it before we get out of here.
All right, people. Thank y'all for having me. Hopefully I'll be back.
Yes, man, for sure, because I think there's not a lot of people that can talk this fluently about this stuff. So yes, I think that'll be a good idea. We'll invite you back, but you're busy all the time. You out of town right now.
It's okay, but you see what I do? I make time, right? I make time for
right.
people, and I always do that. I will always do that.
That's right. All right, guys, we're out of here. See you later. It's the Trans World Podcast. I'm Raquel, and I'll see you guys soon.